Yeah. You guys ready? What's that?
So ready.
With the cap coming in, how does that help your players?
Yeah, I mean, every dollar you can get helps you. It's we're working now through guys to restructure. You saw we did that with Connor McGovern yesterday, and had conversations going in the last few weeks with different players, representatives, just various things, whether it's extensions, whether it's modifying their contract, whether it's in this case restructuring, which is really just moving money down. So we're working through all that, but it does help. It's less that we have to take off because we were, hoping it would get to 250, but didn't really expect it to. We were conservatively planning for a number in the 40s. So to get to 255, I was smiling. Yeah.
Are any of those moves done other than McGovern that you could announce at this point?
Nothing final. Still working through some things. Some are close, and then some we're still at the infant stages, knowing that we got a deadline here coming up in a couple weeks.
Through the years, go ahead, Sam. Through the years, how have you attacked this differently? What you try to get done here
At the combine? Yeah, I mean, the main thing of the combine ultimately is the medical, okay, which I don't do that. But what I get most out of it is meeting these guys and interviewing. We start that process in Mobile, knocking out a select number of players there. And so this just adds to that catalog of players. The good thing here is we're able to bring in 45 guys. It used to be 60, but it's 45 guys for like 18 to 20 minutes. We have our position coach in there, coordinator Sean, myself, and we can talk ball, watch film, break it down. And you really, even though it's a small window, you really feel like it's a nice snapshot, and it kind of, sometimes it fully answers the question for you. Sometimes you're going, hey, we're going to need some more follow-up at the pro day, a private workout, or whatever we can get done between now and April.
Your safety situation, Mike's contract's up,
Yeah.
and Jordan, carries a heavy cap.
Right.
But is it going to be an awful big ask for you guys to move on both of those players in one offseason? Is that a little dangerous, I guess?
I mean, listen, you never want to move on from good players. You don't. And I was talking about this on the One Bills Live here a minute ago. I've been in the league 26, 27 years, whatever it is. I've never seen a safety duo for 7 seasons play together. I know there's been an injury here or there. Micah's season got cut short a year ago. But to play in this day and age of free agency, 7 seasons is remarkable. And so I don't know that, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, whenever, I don't know that you're ever going to find a tandem as good as that. We've been spoiled. And so whether that's you have to replace it all at once, or whether you keep one or keep them both, those are all decisions we're still working through on our end. Now, we don't control fully if Micah plays or not, but ultimately we're going to try to make the best decision we can, knowing that if you don't have them both, it's going to be hard to match the pair that we've had the last 7 seasons.
Brandon, a lot fewer underclassmen this year. How much does that impact the back end of the game?
Yeah, I mean, there's still guys on the back end. I don't think it's like going to be a complete wash. I think you're just finding that it's more 5th year, 6th year with the COVID year. There's more guys like that because a lot of guys are being enticed. And some of these guys that are out now didn't come out a year ago because they were enticed to go back for NIL money. It's some of these schools are providing more guarantees than what they would get if they don't make the opening day roster. And so I still think there's more depth at some positions than others, but I think there's going to be a good pull. I don't see right now, like all of a sudden you get to a certain round on day 3 and you're like, there's nothing to pick from. It depends on their situation. I think you look at each one. Are they capped out, or did they transfer a couple of times? Were they battling injuries? So I don't think you can say one blanket statement that you would be down on 6 years. But yes, you are going to want to know. All right, you transferred 3 times. Oh, you didn't play until your 5th year. And whatever happened. But I think there's a lot of different scenarios that guys run into, whether it's injuries, whether it's family situations, and sometimes guys have made position switches, or they've changed, and along with that, they've had to gain weight or lose weight, so to speak.
Last year, when we were discussing draft plans and taking you, how important to that discussion was position value? Sometimes tight end may not be one of those top positions. And did that weigh on your decision? Obviously, less important position, but
Yeah, I mean, we look at it as matchups. It's a matchup league, and so we looked at Dalton as a matchup, and you're comparing him to other skill positions. Probably most similar to receivers, unless it's just a true receiving back. But there were some receivers that got selected, and then he was the first tight end. But ultimately, we looked at him as kind of a hybrid player, probably more an F tight end receiver like, and just looking at the matchups that we could create, like what are defenses going to do, how are they going to play us in 11 with him on the field, or 12 when Dawson Knox is out there.
There was talk about explosive plays, adding explosive players, maybe if you want to put it that way, but needing more explosive plays. Do you still feel that after the evaluation, that's something your team needs to address a little bit in the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, Sal, we're always looking for that speed, explosiveness at various positions. And again, running back, tight end, receiver, whatever it is, you want guys that can explode without the ball, but you also want rack players, guys that Josh can get the ball in their hands in space, stuff that Joe Brady can scheme up, and they can turn, a 5-yard pass into a 55-yard touchdown or a big gain. So those shorten your drives. We get a lot of that too high shell, and teams are going to make us go 9, 10, 11 plays. So anytime you can add a weapon that's an explosive player, that can shorten it, which, again, the less plays it takes. Sometimes you want to control the clock, but sometimes you don't want to have to go 10 plays every single time to get points.
How do you see Josh Allen grow from the beginning with Joe Brady to, once Joe Brady got fully implemented in the offense? How do you see Josh Allen grow?
I think Josh has grown every year, and to your point, I think Josh and Joe had a really good relationship from the quarterback room that carried on. It wasn't like they had to get to know each other, and it's so important for that play caller to have the feel of what fits this quarterback, what fits this offense. So it didn't take them long to get on the same page, and I thought they really did a nice job, and it'll be fun to watch, I know Josh and Joe had conversations after the season about where we want to take the offense, things that we want to keep and things that we want to tweak. And so those are being worked on now. I know, Joe will check in with Josh, here and there, but always looking forward to seeing how our offense will evolve. And I know Joe's excited about it as well.
Brandon, in terms of receiver, when you look for receivers in this draft, you need to add size to your position.
I mean, that's one of the things, again, whether you talk about adding Dalton Kincaid last year, did you need a receiver more than a tight end or whatever it is, it's really just trying to find different weapons. And you would love for them all to be 6'4", run a 4.42, have elite hands, football instinct. So you're kind of weighing it all. There are some size guys that are 6'3" that play like they're 6 foot. And then, we had a guy in Carolina that was 5'9", and Steve Smith, he played like he was 6'4". He could jump, he was strong, great at the contact point. So if you added a guy like that, he can play big for you. We didn't take Steve Smith out in the red zone in Carolina, if that makes sense. So we're just looking for weapons. We need to know what they do well, how we can accentuate their skill set, and then just make sure we have a variety of things, not just have all quick guys, all big guys, or all fast guys. Just trying to have as many options as we can for Joe to set the offense up.
And did you watch?
With Josh? Well, I'd say we started with, his size, just the physical traits, his arm strengths, knowing we were playing in Buffalo. And then I would say, secondly, just what's the DNA? I mean, the DNA of that's the face of your franchise. What is the intelligence? Because you're a coach on the field, he's got to know what everybody's doing. He's also got to know what the defense is trying to do. So how quick can he process? How much does he know? Does he understand what teams are trying to do? And then that leader. Is that guy? Everybody can lead when it's going well, but what are his leadership traits when it's going bad? How is he going to overcome adversity? What is he like in the clutch? Like, go back and watch his film. What did he do? What did his teams do? Did they have success when they were behind or when they need to finish out a game? You're up 3 or 4. You don't want to punt the ball back. Can you go get 3 or 4 first downs and run the clock out? Yeah, we had, so we first met Josh at the Senior Bowl. We spent 35 minutes with him there one-on-one, and then here a little bit, not as much, because we knew we were going to Laramie to work him out and spend a day with him. We had 2 meals with him, and then we brought him in for a 30 visit. So we put him in different scenarios in each time, and by the end, we were, very confident that this guy would fit us in Buffalo. We have tests that we look at, but those are tools. It's not an end-all, be-all. We trusted our research and just being around him and the tests we put him through to determine that this guy would fit what we're looking for. Yeah, I expect him to be here. I mean, we don't set up meetings or anything like that. We do our exit stuff at the end of the season, but no, nothing's changed from that standpoint. He's not. So Von Miller, yeah, he finished the season healthy. So he's doing well. I think he's in Texas right now, somewhere out there. But yeah, we're hoping that he'll look more like he did the first. When we got him, he had 8 sacks in 9 or 10 games. We're hoping that that's the Von. I've spoken to Von after the season and since it ended and I would say Von the last few weeks, we set him down the one game, and I would say that Miami, Pittsburgh, and KC, you saw the flashes of it. I think now it's just more of it, and getting him in a rhythm. It's that fine balance of, like a shooter. How many shots does he need to get going? Von's a rusher. He's a shooter from there. So, what does he need to get his lather? But understanding at his age, you don't want him playing 40, 45 snaps either.
And then what do you see happening with the
Trade up at number 1 for Carolina last year at this time?
The trade up for Bryce Young? Yeah, I mean, I didn't have all the facts, David, as far as, what they did or, and it's always hard to judge a rookie quarterback. I don't know how they used him or everything about him. I didn't spend any time with Bryce, so I don't know if they accentuated his skill set during the season. So he was a good young player in college. My son goes to Alabama, so I saw those games, and he was very highly thought of there. And so I understood the pick at the time. I don't remember the full trade value of what they got to rate whether it was a good trade or not. It's one of those things, if he works out, if you can get a franchise quarterback, if he turns out to be a franchise quarterback, it'll be a good move. I mean, we got criticized a little bit for how much we gave up for Josh, and I'm like, well, if he doesn't work out, I'm not going to be here anyway, and if he does work out, nobody's going to give a shit.
Brandon, have you?
what do you see happening?
Go ahead.
What do you see happening with the running back market this year, just given the available backs and what happened last year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but I would expect similar. I think it's a passing league, and so the running backs that you can line up out there and he can play receiver. I was just over here talking about matchups and things like that. So I think those backs that can run out of the backfield but can also be a mismatch in the passing game, they're going to have more value than your traditional old school line them up, 3 yards in a cloud of dust running back.
Do you think it's possible, and would you like to retain Gabe or AJ, guys coming out of their first rookie contracts, going to be free agents?
Yeah, I mean, those are guys, first off, we love to draft, develop, and sign. I think those guys have all developed well and earned the opportunity to go to free agency. We're still working through, now that we know the cap, we're working through getting under, and then how much can we create without totally piling up a huge mess, in 25 or 26, whatever year it is. But yes, we're going to, we'll have conversations with those guys like we will all the free agents. And, there's not a free agent that I can think of that I'm going, man, I don't want that guy back. You know what I'm saying? So we'll have lots of conversations and we'll see where it goes. Nothing to report at this point, though.
Is there?
Yeah, I mean the quarterback numbers have jumped more drastically than the cap has, which it really makes it hard because you're trying to balance. You have to have a franchise quarterback. I mean, it's proven. You look at most years, the final 8 teams, most of those guys, most of those teams each year, there can be a one-off here or there, but they have a franchise guy. And so we feel fortunate to have Josh, but that's how you're building your whole team around that contract, and you're trying to massage it. And so that'll continue to be something we have to look at. And the numbers continue to rise drastically, and it's probably not going to slow down. So I'm sure at some point we'll have to, to look at that, from Josh's standpoint.
Brandon, you mentioned the trade you made up for Josh Allen a couple years ago. When your trade, I think you went from 21 to 12 weeks before, and then 12 to 7 the night of.
Yep.
When you're making that kind of trade, like the first one from 21 to 12, do you have to feel like there's a lot of quarterbacks we like and we'll just take whichever one is available to us? Can you make that kind of trade up with only one guy in mind?
You have to know, if you're going to do that, you have to know that you think you have a chance to get in within the striking distance. The reason that we made the move from 21 to 12 was because we were already calling to see if we could get into the top 10, and no one wanted to drop back as far as 21. And so I'm like, if we're going to do all this research and see if we can find the guy we want, we got to get within striking distance. And so getting to 12 was key for us, because at that point people were open to moving back, and ultimately Tampa was willing to go, from 7 to 12. I don't know if they would have gone 7 to 21.
And then 12 to 7, is that just because it's Josh specifically, or
Yes.
if there were other guys?
I'm not going to get into everything, but that was definitely for Josh. I don't want to put bad on anyone else. Yeah, I mean, I think it's no different than any player. How do you evaluate a running back when he ages? How do you evaluate a corner that used to run 4.4, but he's picked up instincts that overcome some of his lack of speed? So you look at some guys. Look at a guy like Keenan Allen. He didn't run fast. He's been a Pro Bowl, all these years. He's just been a great target. And Anquan Bolden, all those years, was never a speedster. So I think, what is their skill set? What do they bring? If you're just wanting a guy to take the top off and just catch deep balls, a Teddy Ginn type that we had in Carolina that was drafted really high, when their speed drops, they lose their value pretty quick.
Hey, Brandon, if you're going young at safety, what are both spots this year? What are you looking for from these guys this week, and can they handle the scheme?
Yeah, I mean, this week it is more about smarts and intelligence. What are they walking in with? And if they're not walking in with a lot, is that because they couldn't do it, or that's just not what the school asked them to do? And so if that's the case, you just know you're starting from back. If it's a really smart player that, hey, he's coming from a very simple defense at whatever university, but we put him through enough tests this week, plus in the spring, whether we bring them in or whether we go to, a pro day or something like that, we want to know how quickly they can learn, how quickly they can process, because back there, the game's moving fast, and they do have to be able to process what's going on, with all the various route concepts, trying to match, teams like Miami and that throw the ball very well.
Randy, is there a preference? Would you rather, the guy who's 2021 or maybe a little older now, guys like Dalton,
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. Some guys that are 21, it's like you're talking to a 25-year-old. And then some guys that are 24, it's like talking to my 18-year-old son. So it's just, some guys come in very mature beyond their years, and some, when you get them in, you're going, we got some work to do. And that's where I think Mark Carrier and our player engagement staff do a great job of just understanding what they're walking in with and where we kind of need to get them to with life skills, and so to speak. So I don't have a preference of 21 versus 25. My preference is that they're pros, they're working hard, they get good habits in the building, but they also have good habits off the field. They're knowing what veterans to follow, and that's where we kind of lean. These are the guys you need when we get these rookies in. These are the guys in your position group you should keep an eye on, and if there's a guy that we think is not, don't follow this guy.
Do you think Tre'Davious and or Matt Milano will be ready for any off-season activities?
I think it's still early. They're still working through it. I don't want to commit to that at this point. Both of them are in Buffalo, rehabbing, doing everything they can. Tre'Davious has attacked it just like he did his ACL stuff 2 years ago. I was talking on One Bills Live again a while ago about, such an unfortunate thing for him after all he did to come back from the ACL and was fired up to be healthy coming in this year, and that happens to him. And Matt's was a freak deal, kind of a non-traditional type of football injury. So we haven't had a guy since I've been there with that type of injury. But he's seen the docs, he's rehabbing, and we'll ultimately see when he's ready, whether it's OTAs or whether we have to wait all the way to July.
Brandon, what value at this point do you put in 40-yard dash? It feels like we're seeing faster and faster times as years go on. So as that drill has evolved, what value do you see in it?
It's play speed, Marcel, more for us. Like, what am I watching when I'm at a game live? Do you feel that guy, his speed jump off when you're on the field? And you can see it on tape, the guys that have it. I've seen guys that are 4.4, but they don't play 4.4. They play 4.5 because they're thinking too much or they just don't have a good feel for the game. And then I've seen guys play much faster than they run 4.5. They didn't train for it very well, but they play fast, they process, and they're really good players. So again, I'm looking more at what do they look like in their pads, playing the game, understanding all the concepts more than just what is that true 40-yard time. Rasul, he's a guy that obviously did some really good things for us. We're looking at a lot of things, so nothing right now or anything like that, but really enjoyed getting to know him and what he brought to our defense.
Brandon, we heard Sean McDermott say it's not a matter of if but when we win a Super Bowl. Is that reciprocated in you, and how do you feel about Sean McDermott going forward?
How do I feel about Sean? Yeah, I mean, listen, I love the confidence, and we're all confident. We work hard. You got to be confident in this business. If you're not, you shouldn't be in one of these jobs. And so, this is season 8 for us, and we're frustrated as ever to win, and we're going to do everything we can. Every year is its own year, and we know the challenge ahead. That when you've won the division, four times in a row, that you're going to be, it's getting harder. It's not going to get easier, but experience helps, and we know some of the landmines that we have to navigate, and we're confident that at the right time we'll get it done.
Brandon, on Tre'Davious himself, fans look and see, coming off the injury, he's got a big cap number, but the person, does that matter too about how much you think a guy like him might be able to come back more fully than someone else, because you know the guy and how you have to weigh all of those different things that go into that?
Yeah, we put all that into the equation, the person, the character, and you're not going to find a higher character than Trey. You obviously put in the medical, like what does your medical team think? When will Trey, in this case, look like the Trey of old? What does that look like? Is that training camp? Is that midseason? Is that 2 seasons from now? Whatever, that's, you do that with any player, but his DNA definitely helps, give you confidence. Perfect. Are you good? Okay.
The Big 12 is doing their own.
Oh, yeah.
Do you like that? How many people want that associated?
Yeah, we're going to send, probably, we were talking about it the other day, probably at least 3. We'll see. Ask me after it's over whether I liked it or not. I'm not going to be able to go, but we'll have some people, some of our higher ups there. Yeah. Something.
You knew some of your tells when you guys were negotiating the deal. What are his tells?
I don't know. I know he likes to shank the golf ball. That's his tell. Yeah. All right. See you guys.